In this lesson, we are going to create select payment method form. When user proceed to checkout from shopping cart form and in the shipping address, click on continue. Here, we are going to get the preferred payment method from user. So what we're gonna do in this lesson is to create this form and save it on the user preference in the user table. Source code of this lesson is here. Go to commit section under repo, find 15 select payment method and use this code to copy and paste throughout this lesson. Let's get to code. Here is the plan to create select payment method form. Let's start by defining payment method in env file, open.env.local, and in a new line, define payment method equal to whatever you want. Here, we are going to define PayPal, Stripe, cash on delivery. So if you want to remove one of them, just simply delete it. In Vercel, in your deployment website, you need to do it in your environment variable setting in the Vercel dashboard. Next step is getting payment method from .env file. Go to constant/index.ts, write before default values, define two constants. The first one is payment method. It comes from payment method in the environment variables, but I'm going to split them by comma space. So what we have is an array of payment method. If we don't have payment method in the environment variables, use this default array. Also, I need to define default payment method. By default, I'm searching in environment variable for default payment method. If it doesn't exist, use PayPal. So what you can do in environment variables is defining default payment method and make it like whatever you want. Here, I'm setting to Stripe. Let's keep it as PayPal, save it, and let's go for step 3 in useraction.ts and define update user payment method function. Open user action in lib actions folder. After update user address, define update user payment method. It accepts data of type payment method schema inferred type. Let's define payment method schema. Go to validator.lib. After shipping address schema, define another schema, set the name of it to payment method schema. It's an object of Zod that has a type as a field. It's of type string and minimum length is 1. In the refine function, we are going to limit user to select one of payment method. So I need to import payment method from constant folder here, and then check if the payment method includes in the payment method of the e-commerce website. If it's not, then show this error message, invalid payment method. Save the code, go back to user action and import payment method schema from validator. Import Z from Zod, and in this function, access to the session, find current user. If it doesn't exist, raise an error, parse the payment method. If there is an error, we get redirected to the catch part. Otherwise, if it's a correct payment method, then call update on user table and update the payment method to the input payment method to this function. Then revalidate place order page. Here we are getting this error. It says payment method does not exist in user table. Let's go to users. In the schema, in user section, right after address, define payment method of type text. Save the code, go back here. There is no error because if we have a change in the schema, we need to open a new terminal and run this command npx result kit push to apply the changes in the schema to the remote database on Vercel, the PostgreSQL database on Vercel. Wait a while to apply the changes, and this beautiful message comes in. Changes applied. Great, save the code. Let's go for next step. It's in the UI part. We are going to create a form to get selected payment method from user. Here we are going to create radio button. So open a new terminal and install radio group from shadcn using this command. It's installing radio group and done. Beautiful. Next step is creating payment method page. Let's create this folder in the root. Go to app, root, new folder, payment method. Inside this folder, create new file, payment method form.tsx. And here is the code for payment method form. It's a client-side component, so I'm using use client. Then export default function payment method form. It accepts preferred payment method of type string. It can be null. And what we're gonna do here is to get access to the router because we are going to redirect user in the checkout wizard. Import use router from next/navigation. We're gonna create a form. So I'm using use form from React hook form. Access to the payment method schema from validator and Z from Zod. Call Zod resolver from hook form/resolver. As a second parameter for use form hook, I'm going to define default values, and it comes from the default payment method from constant folder. If we have preferred payment method from the parent component, we use it, otherwise use the default one. Then call use transition hook because we are going to create a button that handle async action. We need to access to is pending and start transition. Then import use hook, use state, use toast hook from shadcn to show a toast message. And here is the onSubmit function. When user click on next, we need to save the selected payment method. The value that comes into this function is of type payment method schema. I wrap this function in a start transition to show loading button, loading status, and inside that update user payment method. Import this server action from user action, pass the values to this function, get the response. If there is an error, toast error message, otherwise redirect user to the next step, which is place order page. We implement this page later. Let's go for the UI part. In the return part, create empty container, render checkout steps, but this time the current status is 2, which is select payment method. Then render a dev, inside that render a form from shadcn @/component/UI/form, and then render HTML form, set method to post for onSubmit, pass onSubmit function as parameter to the form handle submit from React hook form. Render heading 1 payment method and subtitle message, place select your preferred payment method. There is no H3 here. Then render a dev. Inside that, I'm going to render list of radio button using form filled from shadcn. Then in the render function, import form item, form control, and radio group, all of them from @/component/UI folder. Inside radio group, render list of radio button from payment method in constant folder, call map function and convert each payment method to a form item. Inside form item, render a form control, and inside that render radio group item. After this, render form label to show label next to the radio button. And at the end, import form message from component/UI/form from shadcn. After rendering list of radio button for payment method, render another dev to render a button. This button is submit button. If its loading is true, show loader. Otherwise, render arrow right. And continue as a caption of this button. Save the code. And let's go for next step. Here is list of imports for payment method form component. Next step is creating page.tsx and use payment method form. And here is the code of page.tsx. What we did here is to import payment method form and render it like this. To get the preferred payment method, I'm using current user data. To get current user data, call get user by ID. To access the current user ID, call auth function. So I get access to the session, from session get the user ID, from user ID get access to all information of current user from database, and from this data I get access to the preferred payment method for current user. I pass it to payment method form, and inside this function I use this value to set the default value for the payment method form. Also, in this form, I set the title to the payment method and show app name next to it. And there we are. We are ready to test the result. In the home page, go to cart page, proceed to checkout. In the shipping address, click on continue. Here, we're not getting radio button. Let's fix this issue. Go back to payment method form and find radio group item, remove it from Radix UI and move it to the radio group item inside component/UI/radio group. Save the code and refresh the page. Awesome. Here we have payment method form. Please select your preferred payment method. When I select, let's say Stripe, and click on continue, I will be redirected to 404 error. If I go back, I have Stripe item selected. If I refresh the page, I still have my preferred payment method. Good. In this lesson, we implemented select payment method form in the checkout wizard. And in the next lesson, we go for the last step in the checkout wizard, which is place order. Until that lesson, bye-bye.